I mean, it's food is a fascinating thing to me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I guess this is as good a time to bring it up as any. You know, obviously Anthony Bourdain took his life last week, and he was a friend of mine, and it was real. That was real hard. Friday was real hard. I woke up and I got a text from my friend Maynard from Tool. Maynard said so much for the Keenan versus Bourdain celebrity jiu-jitsu match. And he's like, fuck. And I was like, oh no, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so then I Googled it and I saw it. I was like, oh shit, man. I can't what?
Yeah.
What? Hung himself. Like, what?
Yeah.
I don't.
How close were you? Did you know his demons?
I was friends with him, hung out with him, got fucked up with him.
Did you get a feeling that he had that in him?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But what was really weird was like he had been saying really recently that he'd never been happier. He was talking about his girlfriend and saying that he'd never been happier, didn't know he could be that happy, didn't know someone could make him that happy.
Oh, man. That was so terrible.
But who knows? I mean, they might have broken up or who knows? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, sometimes people, when they say, I've never been that happy, you're catching them on these ups and downs. You know, some people, you know, people get manic, right? I don't know if he was, but some people get manic. They get up and down. I'll tell you what, he liked to get fucked up. Yeah. You know, like he liked to drink. Yeah. You know, and he enjoyed it. It was something that he enjoyed. Yeah. Like we did an episode of this show. We went hunting for pheasants in Montana. And then we cooked over this campfire. He cooked. It was fantastic. And really? And then afterwards we drank whiskey and smoked weed. And he goes deep. He goes deep. Really? Where I'm sitting down, I'm like, I'm gonna just try to catch myself. The world's spinning.
Deep breath, deep breath.
He's like, "Where's the fucking weed?" He's like, "Oh no!" He just kept going.
Wow. But I knew he drank. I didn't know he smoked weed.
Yeah, yeah. He had a heroin problem. When he was younger, and he kicked it, but he didn't feel the need to just be sober.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting about him.
That's a thing, right? When people get sober from a drug, they feel like they have to get sober from everything. Yeah, he did not feel like that. And he, by the way, like he would drink, but when he was home, like with his kid, when he was home with his family, he didn't drink at all. Like he would only do that. He would only do that when he would be on the road. Right. So he'd be filming home a show for these stretches of time, and he didn't drink at all. And he was addicted to jiu-jitsu. That was. Oh, really? Yeah, he was doing jiu-jitsu like literally every day. Wow. When I was hanging around with him, he was. We were in Montana. He went to Bozeman to find a local jiu-jitsu club and trained with them in the morning. Jeez. He would just train with everybody. Like I hardly ever did that on the road. Like, find a place. I would just go to the gym and work out. Right. I wouldn't. But he was so into learning and getting better at jiu-jitsu.
Do you know if he was on prescription for depression or anything like that?
I do not.
That's what I'm so suspicious of. Like when you heard of like Robin Williams and
Chris Cornell.
Yeah, there's like
he was on anti-anxiety medication. Anti-anxiety medication's a big one.
That stuff, like it even, in their long list of side effects, it's always suicidal thoughts. Yeah. And then if you mix it with other things like alcohol and this, and I don't know at all who was on what, but it seems what bothers me is that it's not part of the conversation.
Well, Robin is a different take because Robin had Lewy body disease. Mm-hmm. He had a heart attack. He had significant issues with that. My friend, Dr. Mark Gordon, actually wrote a paper about long-term anesthesia, like when you're under, not long-term, but like long duration, like for things like open heart surgery. Right. That there's a high instance of depression afterwards, and a lot of people coming out of these big time operations where you get anesthesia for long periods of time have significant dips in their hormone levels afterwards. And it's very, it's not like a free ride getting put under.
Yeah.
And having your heart opened up. And I mean, your body goes through massive trauma. Your body's like, holy shit, we just had our chest plate split open and, your heart gets worked on.
People were inside of us.
Yeah. And there's a significant correlation, in Mark Gordon's opinion, between depression, post-surgery depression. I think it's something that people need to look at. He had that, obviously, because he did have heart surgery. For
a long period of time, the depression lasts after that? Because I know people get... I always thought it was just a mental thing of, like, surviving something. Like, I remember Letterman on a show, like, weeping and, like, bringing his staff on and stuff. I didn't know it was a hormone thing. I always thought it was just the trauma of surviving that.
I think it can be both.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure... I mean, I'm obviously no doctor, but he was...
Close. I'd say you're
closer to a garbage man. But he was explaining it to me.
Yeah.
That there is an issue with this.
Right.
And so Robin had that, and he had some serious neurological disorders.
Yeah.
And there was quite a few other things too.
Right. They're also complicated.
Yeah. And then whatever medications. This is the thing, right? Like, what are these what's he on? You really don't know.
No.
But Chester from Linkin Park, he was on a shitload of things, and he was very troubled. I mean, he was a guy he had some real problems, but he was also very medicated.
I mean, look, we have the highest suicide rate among middle-aged people in America than ever. Like the numbers are through the roof, and there's also this pharmaceutical opioid crisis at the same time. And I just feel like, people are on this shit that's really affects your head and your mood. And it says right in it, like, I remember I had a friend whose brother was depressed, and this was, in the 80s when we were kids. And the game, lack of a better word, of trying to get the right medicine for him, because when they prescribed the wrong one, things got out of hand. I mean, like, really dangerously out of hand. And then they finally find the right med for him, and then he kind of cruised like that.
There's no, like, obvious path.
Yeah.
Like, the problem is, it's like, say if you have some particular type of infection, they give you antibiotics. If you have, poison ivy, they know what kind of cortisone cream to put on you or what have you. When you're depressed, there's just so many different factors involved in depression. There's your actual life, right? There's what's going on in your life. Like, are you taking care of your body? Are you exercising?
Right.
Do you have loving relationships with your family and close friends? Or do you feel distant and detached? Do you not have anyone in your life, like, romantically? Do you not have a job that you enjoy? All those things factor into the way you feel about life.
And from the time you were a kid.
Sure.
Your whole life.
Oh, your whole life. And then on top of that, you have, like, legitimate mental illness.
Right.
And you have depression because your brain is not producing enough serotonin or dopamine. And there's so many factors. And people try to self-medicate. And, I know a lot of people try to do it with exercise. Exercise apparently seems to be as effective or more effective than most SSRIs and antidepressants.
I heard that, I don't know if I'm right, but I remember hearing that whatever your body manufactures or secretes when you exercise is similar to what a lot of these drugs have in them.
Well, you definitely get runner's high, right?
Right,
Runner's high, you actually, your runner's high, I don't know the exact mechanisms involved, but it has something to do with the cannabinoid receptors. So it literally gives you a high that's similar to almost like a marijuana high.
Right. You're euphoric.
Oh yeah, you get, like, I love it.
Yeah,
I love running.
And just feel, even if it's not identified for me as a high, like smoking weed, my whole rest of my day is better. Like, there's a happy little thing going on that's, I'm not flying, but I'm definitely not balled up and anxious the way I was before the run.
Yeah, that balled up and anxious thing, I have my own theory about that. I think the human body has physical requirements. And I think if you don't, just because of the design of it, the fact that, human beings have lived for thousands and thousands of years, either hunting or gathering or running away from danger, or your body's like constantly in action back then.
Yeah.
And we essentially have the same bodies as people that lived 10,000 years ago. Our DNA is very, very similar.
Right.
And I think we have all these requirements and we don't meet them. And there's so many people that just sit down all day, and that's all they do. They walk to sit down, then they sit down again. And most of their time is sitting down, whether they're watching television or sitting in front of their computer. And that shit is terrible for you.
Terrible. Yeah. And you feel it. You just feel shitty.
Yeah.
You feel bad. I was in, after the Bourdain news, I was traveling outside of Chicago, and it just kind of clicked in my head, like, you know, you're just thinking, whenever you have someone that inspires you, and especially if you're friends, like you were, you know, it's just, you can't get it out of your head kind of a thing. And your balled up anxiety is even worse. And I just instinctually got in, put on my running shoes, and just went for a run, because I didn't want to sit and think about all of it so much.
Yeah.
And I just felt better. Like I wasn't euphoric again after the run, but I was definitely better than before.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially when you're traveling and stuff like that. But he did jiu-jitsu all the time.
Mm-hmm.
See, these are puzzles. These are puzzles we can't solve.
Well, yeah, who knows? I don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no way
idea
to ask him, obviously. Yeah, when I travel, one of the first things I do, whether I'm coming home or going there, is work out.
Yeah.
And I didn't this weekend, because Friday when I got there, I'd worked out Thursday, so I'd worked out that day already. I ran that day. And then I got there Thursday night, woke up Friday to that text, and I was just like, fuck, man. I didn't want to do anything. I cried.
Yeah.
I felt like shit. I got a bunch of phone calls from some friends, and then I had 2 shows that night. I was like, I just gotta get on the horse, fire up. And I was a little worried. I was a little worried that I was going to be like moody or weirded out.
Yeah.
But once I got there, I was fine.
Yeah.
You know, I was with Santino and Tony Hinchcliffe.
Nice.
So those 2 guys are great.
Yeah.
We just had a fun time. We talked a little bit about it and smoked a little weed.
Nice.
Got up there and just had some fun.
And the energy of that crowd. I saw your Instagram of the crowd, and that's such a beaubeauul theater.
That's an amazing theater.
You could have to. It'd be tough to be depressed and doing a show there with all those fans and that thing.
700 people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did 2 shows too. They were both great.
Oh,